Hi, I'm Timothy Mitchell with LexJet. I'm having an ongoing conversation about the 340i Plus with the manager of the EFI facility, Tiffany Bisson. Tiffany, hi.
Hello, hi Timothy.
Your literature explains that this printer, the 340i Plus, has significant improvements in cost savings for media and ink, etc. Could you explain how this printer reduces cost?
Yeah, of course. So probably the biggest thing is going to be our medium viscosity inks.
Okay.
So EFI isn't just the OEM of the hardware, but also the ink as well.
You're an ink manufacturer.
Correct. So what that allows us to do is have more levers and pulleys and more ways that we can be more efficient with the ink. So what we do is we have more pigment per drop than any other sublimation ink out there, and we have less of a water carrier. So what that means is per jetted drop going to that fabric, you're gonna have more pigment, more vibrancy, meaning you can use less ink than traditional other sublimation inks.
Okay, fantastic. So the inks have more impact and then less of the water delivery vehicle.
Correct.
I would assume that would also help with things like evaporation and curing because you don't have as much of the delivery vehicle.
Yep, exactly. So on the 340i Plus, we do have a updated heating element.
Okay.
So having a more consistent sublimation across the width and having to outgas less water because we can have more pigment, less water per drop allows us more consistency.
Okay, fantastic. So considerable efficiency in your ink manufacturing gives you a decisive edge over people that order ink someplace and get what they get.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. What other features about the printer allow you to save some money? Do you have I was reading a little bit about a reclamation. Could you explain that a little bit for me?
Yeah, of course. So in the morning to get the printer up and running, rather than doing a standard startup purge where you're actually pushing ink through the print heads, we push them through the jet face.
Okay.
And only about 20% of that purged ink comes out through the nozzles. The rest of it is reclaimed, degassed twice and sent back to your ink tank. So it's not wasting nearly as much ink as some of the competitive.
Okay, so fantastic. So some real advances in the engineering for how the ink is used and to reduce it during purging and to remove air.
Correct, and that will allow you more open time, not worrying about any sort of jet out or anything like that. So again, that's going to save time and material as well as ink.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned a little bit, a bit on paper.
Yes.
So there's some advantages. I always want to run thinner paper because it costs less. And
exactly.
So with this new ink, I'm assuming you have less water there. That's going to prevent cockling and other thing with the paper.
Correct, but we also on the Plus introduced a new vacuum platen specific for paper.
Okay.
So it used to be historically that you would have to run the heavier weight paper because all of the wetness from the ink would cause, like you said, the cockling or the wrinkling. With the vacuum platen, you can run much thinner paper and put down a lot of ink because we have that vacuum platen to keep everything nice and flat.
Oh, cool, fantastic. Now there's another thing that you guys do, which I think is cool. So you make your own ink, right?
Correct.
Now you also have your own software. Now that's very unusual because almost everyone else is dependent upon someone else's software to run their equipment, and you don't control the software OEM. In your case, EFI is dialed in, the Fiery is dialed in for this printer. Could you tell me a little bit about how your software saves ink?
Yeah, of course. So I like to describe it as a holistic approach to printing in general, right?
Okay.
So we're the OEM of the hardware, the ink, and the software. And the combination of those two things is really those three things is our competitive edge. So very, very specific to sublimation and to textiles is profiling. It's super, super important because their paper and the fabrics that you're printing to can only actually take in so much ink before you're just wasting ink. And being that the Fiery allows you to create custom profiles specific to your materials, you're going to be using the least amount of ink to get as much density and saturation as possible.
I understand. So those are your key features. Excellent. Definitely an important thing to save money, save ink, run efficiently, and then also get the most gamut, but use the least amount of ink to do it.
Yep, and historically in the field, we're seeing about a 30% savings with the EFI FabriVU 340i Plus compared to other sublimation systems.
Wow, 30% adds up very quickly in cost of ownership.
It does.
All right, thank you very much for that.
Of course, Timothy.